Why do we feel it's necessary to yak about bullshit in order to be comfortable?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Welcome, everyone. It's episode 65, Late Night with the Gringo, but it's not Late Night with the Gringo anymore because, well, we're not really doing it late night because the time change, which affected everybody in the United States but didn't affect us, but we figured we'd change our time and be a little bit earlier for your convenience. So, Late Night with the Gringo is still Late Night with the Gringo. How you doing, buddy?
Doing good. Well, it's not really late night. It's more like afternoon. Or
So-
just south of the border.
So, south of the border, baby. That's where we are right there. Look at that. South of the border. All right, and that's where we're coming to you live from south of the border. That's where we're from. Well, not where we're from, where we're coming from, but where we currently live. Officially, for those of you that don't know us, I am originally from the Boston area, and you are originally from the Boston area.
Yeah. Well, another part, but yeah, pretty much Boston area.
Boston area. And we've lived in Michigan and Texas. We've lived all over the place. We've been all over the United States, and of course, now we live down here south of the border. Of course, you've lived in Italy.
Yeah, I lived in Italy.
You lived in
So
Europe. You had that fun experience of being in Europe.
I did.
Yeah.
It was a good time.
It was a good time, right?
Real good time.
I'm glad you had a good time. You
Now
should
back
have
to
a good
work.
time. Now back to work. Now back to doing what we're supposed to be doing. So we got lots to talk about. We got lots of news, lots of Trump news, because every time the man shows up on TV, it's news because something happens. You know, he had his physical today.
It was physical today.
Yeah,
How do you
physical
do?
today. I guess he did fine. I mean, the guy lives on a Diet Coke and
Big Macs.
McDonald's and Big
Yeah.
Macs, which is kind of makes him my hero at that point in time.
Yeah,
you know, it's like,
you envy that. Don't
yeah,
you?
it's like,
You gotta envy it,
damn,
man.
I eat a Big Mac and I'm down for 3 days. You know, it's like, okay, but those things are delicious. All right.
They are.
So we're going to start out with a lot of immigration news, a lot of things going on. I call it immigration roulette because depending on what part of the country you're in and what judge you're in front of, there's a whole different opinion about what's going on with immigration, what we can do, what we can't do, what Trump's allowed to do. The Supreme Court's made rulings. There's all sorts of weird stuff going on, and we're going to get into it and just kind of try to make a little bit of sense of it because, frankly,
Complicated.
It's
Complicated
complicated.
business.
Complicated.
Business. Who knew? Who knew leaving, entering countries legally or illegally would be a complicated process? I wouldn't know that.
hey, you know,
I
it's
only
like,
lived abroad.
it's what happens when a system is abused. A system that was in place that seemed to work for a while gets abused, and things get all haywire. And that's really what's happening is those things getting abused.
Yeah.
All right, so we got news for that. We got tariff news. We got news about Mexico maybe getting new sanctions because, you know,
Why not?
why not? You
Might as
know,
well add it to the
might as well
bingo
add it to the
list, right?
pile. And we got some Nintendo Switch news because of the tariffs. And, you know, I was thinking about getting a Nintendo Switch. So it might not affect us because we're down here in Mexico. We might be able to get a Nintendo Switch before anybody in the United States.
Probably.
That'd be
I would
really
imagine.
cool.
I would imagine.
I don't know. Would you want a Nintendo Switch?
Two? Why not? I mean, you get the new. You get the new. Was it Mario Kart game? Which I love Mario Kart. I haven't played it in years, but I love it. New Pokemon games come out on it. I mean, it's just fun.
All
Good
right,
time.
well, think about it. I'm a Zelda guy myself. You know, the original Zelda is still to me the greatest game ever made.
Oh, they're doing the retro games too. They're bringing those back.
Retro games.
So you're gonna have like the GameCube stuff. I think.
How about Metroid? Can I get some Metroid
I
in
think
there?
you'll have Metroid. I
Ooh,
could be
alright.
wrong. I'll have to check.
All right. Well, we're gonna start. Like I said, we're gonna start out with the immigration news because there is a lot of it. So let's share the screen here. Boom. This poor bastard we've been talking about, Khalil, my friend Khalil.
This
How
guy
you
can't
doing?
stay out of the news.
This guy, all right, so those of you who don't know, this is the guy who was basically the head of all the Colombia demonstrations, and apparently he had some ties to Hamas or things that way, so we arrested him, we were going to deport him, and of course it goes in front of a judge, but for some reason, the government was smart this time, and they went in front of a judge in Louisiana. They sent him down to Louisiana to see an immigration judge down there, so definitely not a liberal judge because no one's appointing a liberal judge in Louisiana.
No.
So this is Mahmoud Khalil, and he has been ruled that he can be deported. He can be. Khalil, who as a Columbia University graduate student led pro-Palestinian protests there last year. They weren't pro-Palestinian because this is an NPR article. They were pro-Hamas. All right? He was detained last month after Secretary of State Marco Rubio quickly becoming my new favorite cabinet member, because that guy is just like, he's just all about just dropping the hammer.
He's like doing God's work right now.
He's awesome. He's
honestly, I almost feel bad. The man needs a vacation.
But this guy, just keep going, Marco. Keep going, buddy. I'm behind you. Said he has determined that Khalil's activism was anti-Semitic, and that allowing him to remain in the country would undermine a U.S. foreign policy goal of combating anti-Semitism around the world. Which, no offense, we kind of fought a world war over anti-Semitism.
Yeah, I think it's kind of in line with branding,
Yeah, so, I think it's a good thing. So in a hearing Friday at a remote Louisiana detention center, that sounds lovely, where Khalil is being held, and I'm sure they're loving him down there, and he's loving them down there, Judge Jamie Coleman said she had no authority to question Rubio's determination. How about that? A judge, an actual judge, saying, you know what? I have no authority to question the federal government's foreign policy, which is kind of unique because every other judge seems to think they have the authority to question foreign policy.
Well, in blue states.
In blue states.
I don't mean to make this a blue and red state thing always, but this is very clearly a blue and red state issue when it comes to judges, which is a shame because they shouldn't be biased.
Yeah.
The whole point of being a judge is to be unbiased.
Yeah, that's
justice is blind, and you are there just to guide it.
Yeah, the law is the law, man. Yeah. Khalil will not immediately be deported. His attorneys have said that if he were ordered deported, they would appeal the judge's ruling. And of course, NPR there with the typo. Great job, NPR. Good quality. Coleman's gave Khalil until April 23rd to request. Again, NPR. Good typos there. Good editing. A stay of his deportation if his attorneys believe he qualifies for one.
Isn't it a public funded? This is public funded, no NPR?
They get like 1% of their funding, yeah, but most of it's donations. But it's one of the most liberal outlets out there.
Well, still, I mean, you think with that public funding, we require them to, type correctly?
Yeah, that would be awesome. And the judge said if they don't meet the deadline, she would order him deported either to Syria, part of my ancestral heritage, because I am part Syrian and Lebanese, where he was born, or to Algeria, where he is a citizen. Well, aren't those two lovely options?
Pretty bad.
I mean,
you went from the U.S. to what? Syria
or Algeria?
Or Algeria.
Personally, I would choose Syria because they, at least they're trying to get their shit together. But Algeria, man, that's just a North African hellhole right there.
You're just trying to escape to France, essentially, at that point.
Yep. Khalil, who has a green card, is a lawful permanent resident. Not anymore. In ordering Khalil's deportation, Rubio relied on a rarely used federal statute from the 1950s that played a major role in shaping American immigration during the Cold War, called the McCarran-Walter Act, or the Immigration Nationality Act of 1952, which gives the Secretary of State authority to decide that a non-citizen's presence in the United States threatens the country's foreign policy goals. Well, he was arrested. Hey, he has his wife there in New York City. He's at a university-owned apartment building. He's living a life. He's getting his doctorate, master's, whatever. He's in the U.S. And he decides to say, you know what, U.S., F you. I'm going to give you the finger. What are you going to do about it?
Yeah, well, I don't get the whole rationale behind this whole, why would you take this dumb risk?
Yeah.
I guess maybe he thought he never considered the idea that he could be possibly deported. That's the only reason why I would see.
Well, listen,
taking this risk.
This is not about the freedom to protest. You have the right to protest in a certain way, right? You don't have the right to take over buildings, to keep people from classes, to use that type of language to keep students from getting the education that they pay for, or somehow in some way disseminating propaganda that comes from a terrorist organization that's designated a terrorist organization by the U.S. government. Unfortunately, those are not covered under your free speech or freedom to protest rights in the Constitution, whether you're a citizen or not a citizen. Just guess what? That is not covered. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, it's a bit of a rough pill for him to probably swallow right now. Dude, he's got a kid on the way. Really talking about throwing your entire life away. Huh?
Well, his kid's going to be able to grow up in the heart of what this man believes in Syria and Algeria, and I guess that should make him happy. This is the detention center that he's staying at. That looks lovely. Doesn't it look? Is that like a little soccer yard there or something?
I thought that was a prison. I didn't think that was a detention center.
Yeah, look at it. Maybe they got a little game going on here. Kick the football. We kick the football. All right, but yes, Khalil. Yes. Hopefully, you don't have to let the door hit you in the ass on the way out. So I'm not really upset. Again, there are immigration cases that I look at and go, you know what? That's wrong. Okay, this is one of those cases I look at and go, hey, justice is served. So, how do you feel about Khalil?
I think, listen, you messed up big. In a way, I sympathize with the fact that, you're about to have a family, your life's about to kind of kick off in the United States, and now it's all taken away because you made a very poor decision. So in that regard, I don't really feel too bad for him, but I sympathize for the kid, and to the extent the wife.
Dude, this guy was like Charlie in the Chocolate Factory. He had a golden ticket. He's running through the streets. I got a golden ticket.
Graduating
I'm in the United States.
from
I'm a student. I'm going to have family. I'm going to
Yeah.
big, bright future. And then Slugworth just came over and just clotheslined this motherfucker.
And he didn't even get anything in return.
Nope. He's getting nothing. Nada. I wonder how long his wife's going to stick with him in Syria. She's going to be like, no, I think I'll go back to the U.S.
No.
So, but anyways, all right. Now, there's a couple immigration stories here, which, whoo, here's this one. All right. This is where I think the Supreme Court made the right decision, okay? Listen. Kilmar Abrego Garcia, a Salvadorian immigrant who is married to a U.S. citizen, was deported to the mega prison in El Salvador despite a court ruling forbidding his removal. He was wrongly deported. The U.S. Supreme Court has actually come out and said, this guy was wrongly deported. You have to get him back.
You have to bring him back. And he's like, right now in El Salvadorian prison, he's like, can I go home?
Okay, now listen.
I feel bad.
Listen, he was here illegally. I get that. He's here illegally. That's a crime. He should be prosecuted for that, right?
You were hard against him.
I was hard.
You were really harsh against him.
I'm still hard against him because he still broke the law. Should he have been put and sent to an El Salvadorian prison with MS-13 gang members? No. Should he have been deported? Yes. But deported in this manner? No. Should he have had a hearing in front of a judge? Probably. Immigration officials knew he was here. He's married to a U.S. citizen. Okay. If he's done something wrong, ICE did 2 years ago give testimony in a court of law that he was or had ties to the gang MS-13, but that evidence is sort of, I don't want to say murky, but not exactly the most solid. But yes, he is a criminal because he's here illegally. All right. But the way in which he was deported, okay, that I can go, all right,
The guy was brought to an El Salvadorian prison.
He was brought to one of the worst prisons ever conceived by man in human history. All right. Which good for MS-13 to be there because they deserve to be there, those thugs and criminals and lowlifes. But this guy, if he's not one of those MS-13 and we weren't sure, of course, the Trump administration is like, no, we're not going to. Now, the U.S. Supreme Court sent it back to the original judge who said, hey, send him back. You got to get him back. And the judge said, we need to know what your plans are, what the steps are you're going to take, and I'll give you a few hours to tell me. And the Department of Justice came back with their lawyer and goes, yeah, it's not enough time, so we don't have nothing for you. So they're still stalling. It's still stalling, right?
This is, yeah. I feel like at this point, I'm not saying the guy should be granted citizenship, but I feel like he's gone through enough. He's married an American, right? He was showing up to his court cases for immigration officers.
He was, but if he does have ties to the criminal gang,
okay, if he does have ties,
right?
they're deported. But if
the guy deserves a hearing.
The guy deserves a hearing.
Right.
Maybe at this point a pardon. Dude, imagine you got put in a Salvadorian prison for gang members by accident, and you were there for like a month.
I'd be the king in a week. No.
You're shanked in like
I'd be
2
shanked.
days.
I'd be shanked before they even shaved my head, which they don't really have to. I'm bald. Anyways, I'd be shanked. That would be
That's crazy.
So, district court judge had ordered the administration to bring Kilmar Abrego Garcia back to the U.S. by Monday night, but Chief Justice John G. Roberts Jr. issued a brief pause hours before that deadline, allowing the justices time to weigh a government motion to block the order. Now, all the justices, this was sent with no dissent. So all the justices were like, yeah, you got to bring him back. Even Alito, even Thomas, they're like, yeah, maybe we went a little too far.
They're like, this is a little far, boys. We might need to walk this one back just for a little bit.
So, and of course, the three liberal justices on the court, Kagan and Sotomayor and Ketanji Brown Jackson, they couldn't help but write a little something, and they were basically like, listen, this is no reason. Okay, the court's three liberal justices criticized the Trump administration. Let me highlight this for suggesting that it could leave Abrego Garcia in a Salvadorian prison for quote no reason recognized by the law.
I mean, he's not wrong. They're not kind of wrong.
They're not kind of wrong.
This is like one of the few times you can actually look at them and be like, this is kind of fair criticism. I mean, what did he do to get it? Like, you were just in the country illegally.
Yeah. The government's argument, quote, implies that the justices continue, implies that it could deport and incarcerate any person, including U.S. citizens, without legal consequence, so long as it does so before a court can intervene, wrote Justice Sonia Sotomayor, joined by Justices Elena Kagan and Ketanji Brown Jackson. Now, I've told you before, listen, I lean more conservative. Of course, you probably all figured that out by now, but I have a lot of respect for Justice Sotomayor. I believe that she's got a good head on her shoulders. The other two, they're kind of a little too more progressive for me. But Sotomayor, when she speaks, I tend to listen a little bit, more hard, because she usually has a little bit more well thought out argument. If she's saying this in this type of sort of manner, in kind of direct way, she might have a point. So we'll see what happens. But the Trump administration is saying, we don't know what we're going to do. So the Trump administration...
They're like, did we just leave him there? Do we really have to bring him back? This is kind of fucked. That's a bit fucked up.
They're like saying, we don't have enough time to consider... Well, first of all, they said they didn't have enough time to read the court ruling from the Supreme Court to understand what it was saying, to be able to make a plan to deliver it to the judge. So the judge is like, listen, I need this as soon as possible. And what I mean as soon as possible... I would like it by the end of the day, Friday, which is like, on the East Coast, which is right about now. And I'm sure that judge is probably like sitting in her chambers and she's just kind of tapping her fingers going, where is it? How are we getting it back?
Do you know what they might, do you think they'll be like, hey, Ruby, can you use some law here and be like, oh, we don't have jurisdiction there to bring him back?
You know
think
what?
They might try to do that? Which, in my mind, that's a little too far. That's like, wow, that's pretty fun.
At this point, I don't know if I'm going to put it past them to do anything. But in reality, what should be happening is the Secretary of State should be calling up El Salvador. Marco Rubio should be like, damn it, another thing I got to do. Like you said, God's work.
Ukraine, Russia, Middle East.
He should be calling up El Salvador. Going, can we get this guy out? Can you put him on a plane? We'll pay for the ticket and we'll get him back here.
Dude, his office must be a mess. He probably has like several like whiteboards with like yarn and pins to different different cases. One is like all tariffs. The other one's like all related to like the Middle East. The other one's China,
cartels. Then there's one from Mexico.
Russia,
but I'm telling you, by the time 1 year is up, he's going to be a mess, and he's just going to be like, "Listen, I did it for a year. I can't do it anymore. He's going to be a lunatic. He's going to be so burnt out. They're going to need somebody else." I mean, I hope that's not the case, but literally,
dude, he's great at his job. I don't know how you can expect somebody to go through this for that long without like, no offense, he's kind of fighting this war by himself.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, he is. So, so this is one of these things where it's like, yeah, I'm a little hard on the guy for being here illegally, being there illegally. I'm a legal immigrant myself here in Mexico. But again, yeah, sometimes the punishment needs to fit the crime, and I think this one.
This doesn't really fit that well.
Yeah, so I told you we have lots of immigration news. We're still going. Oh, but
more people.
Oh, we got more stuff. A judge allows the requirement that everyone in the U.S. illegally must register to move forward. This is an old law. This is a very old law that never got enforced, and now the Trump administration wants to enforce it. And this judge is basically like, "Yeah, it's law. Absolutely enforce it." So what exactly is going on here? A federal judge is allowing the Trump administration to move forward with a requirement that everyone in the U.S. illegally must register with the federal government in a move that could have far-reaching repercussions for immigrants across the country. Listen, if they're here in the country illegally, do you think they're going to go to the government and go, "Hi, I'm illegal"? Do you think no. So what happens if they don't do that by a certain date, and this requirement goes into effect today?
Really? Today? Oh, damn. All right, today's busy, huh?
Yep. Today, then they can be subject to jail, subject to fines, subject to deportation, of course. So this is crazy. The registration process also applies to Canadians who are in the U.S. for more than 30 days, the so-called snowbirds who spend winter months in places like Florida. Okay. So failure to register is considered a crime, and people will be required to carry these registration documents around with them or risk prison time and fines. So they've got to carry this crap around with them, right?
Yeah, sounds like right.
Oh, my God. Registering mandatory for everyone 14 and older without legal status. So this is, like I said, this is an old law. I forget the name of the law here. I had it in my head there. So, It was used in a limited way after 2001, after September 11th.
Immigration and Nationality Act, 1962.
It's the Alien Registration Act of 1940.
Oh.
All right? Which was because of the Cold War and the political subversives. And then the current requirements stem from an Immigration and Nationality Act of 1952. Oh, man. This is getting interesting, right?
This is about to get...
Can you imagine? Now you have to have... Dude, when was the last time you heard somebody say in a country, show me your papers? It reminds you of some place, doesn't it?
Couple of places.
Mainly one. Mainly two.
I've been in this country before.
Yeah, it's in the middle of Europe, and it
kind of causes problems every 100 years.
They make great cars. They love pretzels
and beer
and
football.
And football. The
only thing they can be nationalistic about is their football teams. Yep. Dude, you see it come out. I'll tell you this, a little off topic here. Germany. They are not very nationalistic as a people. They feel very kind of like, oh, they can't do that because everyone looks at them kind of weird, right?
Yeah.
And you can imagine why. But when it comes to their football teams, they let it all out. They're lunatics. And you're like, oh, there's a reason why we need this part of them locked away.
Yes.
It's bad. It's bad.
Oh, man. So, I mean,
love you guys, though.
But this, but again, I mean, this is. I agree that if you're here illegally, you should register with. If you're there illegally, register with the government. Start going through the process to become legal. If you really want to stay in the United States, believe me, it really is harmless. It really is painless when you actually go through it. Because I've been through it with members of my family. So
not me. I was born.
Not me. You're an American citizen. You're American.
Born and raised. Why do you got a Chicago hat, boys?
This is true. I'm wearing a Toronto hat. What does that make me?
Yeah, it makes you a wannabe Canadian.
Oh,
otherwise,
otherwise I love the Canadians. By the way,
otherwise known as a snow Mexican.
I'm a snow Mexican. Okay, cool.
You want to be a snow Mexican? That's why I call Canadians for fun.
You know what? I know there's a lot of bad blood between the United States and Canada right now, and I know Canadian people are giving Americans who are on vacation up there a lot of hard time. Listen, it's not us. It's not you. It's just the way things are. We still love you, and you still love us. Let's just,
Can we get along? Can we just get along?
I like hockey. You like hockey. I like Canadian bacon sometimes. You like Canadian. Tim Hortons? Love Tim Hortons. Love me some Tim Hortons. Look, we got a lot in common.
Yeah.
Canada. Wrestling. Hey, the Hart Foundation. Stampede Wrestling. Hey, old school. I like that. Montreal's a great city too. If you're young and you're a young man, the Rue de St. Catherine is where you want to be.
Wow.
And if you're not a young man and single, stay away from that road. It's a place you shouldn't be caught dead at. Anyways. So a lot of immigration stuff going on so far. We get still one more immigration news, but what do you think of this so far? It's just rifling.
Yeah, rifling, deporting people, making people register.
Yeah.
Next, they're gonna put tattoos. What?
No. That's a bridge too far, my friend.
Bridge too far.
That is a bridge. If that starts happening, I'm gonna be like, all right,
we gotta cap this here. I was like, I'm all for immigration law and policy, but this is a little too far. Next thing's gonna be like, what about railroads? I'm like, no.
But what's happening? The thing I'm seeing though is the fracturing of immigration law depending on where you are in the country,
and
depending on what judge you're in front of. Like they can't.
It's gotta be consistent.
Yeah, immigration law can't be different in Louisiana than it is in Washington D.C. It can't be different in California than it is in Indiana. Like immigration law is federal law. It is at some point in time, the Supreme Court, and I know it's a process, but if you're in the Supreme Court, you should be looking at this going, let's just settle this all now, bring all this shit to the Supreme Court now, let's figure it all out, let's have a federal law, or Congress needs to step in and say, this is what immigration law is.
Right.
Deal with it.
You deal with it, exactly. And if you want to change it, it's up to Congress, not the states.
Yeah.
It's a federal law. Okay. If you want to make a law as a state for how people can enter your state, sure, to an extent. But even then, you can't. If you're a border state, doesn't mean you can't control your border. We can have more control over that border than say the federal government. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can have law over interstate commerce and interstate travel. Sure.
But I mean, also, let's just think about people who want to immigrate there legally.
Headache.
Like, you don't know what to do, where to go, how to do it, what state to go to, what your requirements are. Like, And if you go to the state of Massachusetts, which has got very liberal immigration policies, what if you say to yourself, I'm here legally, and since I can legally travel, I'd like to take a trip to Florida to see Disney World. But then you get down to Florida, and you start to realize before you cross that the Tallahassee state line, you're like, oh, wait a minute, things are different down here. What if this? What if that? And you can just get sent out of the country just for visiting Disney World. It's like there needs to be some sort of consistency. And when there's no consistency, it's chaos. And right now, that's what we're seeing. We're seeing chaos. And the thing is, the news can't even keep up. The news is not usually journalism is let's report the news, but let's also question our leaders in a fair-minded fashion, which that doesn't happen anymore. I get that. But even if they could, they can't. They can't even catch their breath. There's so much crap happening everywhere.
Well, and then the laws certain laws are starting to be applied that haven't been really applied or enacted in forever, like this one that we were just talking about.
Well, yeah. But it is a law.
It is a law, and it's not that it's not wrong to enact it. It's just okay, we haven't been using it for a while. How does this affect all these cases now? You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And now the status of these people. Are you legal? Are you illegal? Are you in between? But does this make you now one or the other? You see what I mean?
Yeah, and in a lot of things when it comes to law is precedent, right?
Right.
Well, okay, if you apply a law equally and consistently, it becomes precedent. But when you don't apply a law and you ignore a law, or a law isn't applied consistently, doesn't that become precedent? Right? The idea that you don't follow that law, the law almost becomes sort of, I don't know.
Like a misinterpretation of a law becomes the actual interpretation of it.
It becomes mute. It becomes moot, right? It becomes, I guess that's the word for it, moot. It becomes like something, okay, we don't use this, so it's a relic, it's an antique, it's not something we use. Yeah, it's on the books, but it's, like the silly laws you have in some states, like ducks need to wear pants. Like literally, there are laws like that. Ducks,
it's fine.
Stupid laws. They're like you can't keep an alligator in your bathtub, right, or something like that.
There was a law, and I was reading about something about where you can't walk out in certain neighborhoods at past 6 p.m.
Yeah,
but it's a very old law from the early 1900s.
Yeah,
and it's funny,
but no one's it's
it doesn't get applied. It doesn't get applied,
but it's still a law.
But
so
no serious court or no serious judge is going to actually charge you with that. You can't walk around with a trout suspiciously in England.
A what?
A trout.
A trout.
Specific is it a trout or salmon? One of the other fishes, but it's you can't walk around with a fish, whether it's a trout or salmon, suspiciously.
How does one walk suspiciously?
Don't ask me. That's the law. That's the law. That's law in England. It's an old English law. Very old.
What do you you whisper into the salmon? Hey, how you doing, buddy? It's what do you?
Technically, it's illegal. I know. It's great.
Okay. Here's our fourth and final immigration story to round out our immigration block. I mean, at this point in time, every south of the border episode, we're gonna have immigration block, right? Trump cancels hundreds of student visas.
We could call it border control.
Border control.
Welcome to border control.
Welcome to border control. Forcing rapid departures. The Trump administration has revoked hundreds of international student visas across the country, setting off a desperate scramble for them to leave the United States. Some of these students, they're walking around campus, just going about their day, I got lab today. Oh, I got writing center today.
I just learned how to properly write this essay in the writing center.
All of a sudden on their phone pops up an email or a notification saying, your visa's been revoked. Please leave the country. And they're like, what?
They don't know what to do. They're like, my life has been canceled?
Yeah, basically. And so a lot of these places now, the majority of these happening, a majority of these visas that are being canceled are in the states of Massachusetts,
New York, California. I figured.
So a lot of these schools, including UMass Amherst, which I'm very familiar with, great campus, good parties.
Wow.
It's known as a party school, man.
Really?
UMass Amherst?
I know this.
That is a party school.
I just know the Pixies come from there.
The Pixies do come from there, but believe me, it is a party school.
Wow.
It was always known for that. Anyways, so the chancellor of that school, whose last name is Javier, he's also a Mexican immigrant who became a citizen, who became a chancellor. He's having this. They set up this angel fund in the first Trump administration, and now they're getting to use it. And it's basically money to help these kids get the frig out of the country because there's nothing they can do.
Really? There's nothing they can do?
No. There's nothing they can do.
Why were they canceled? If they're going,
there's no reason given.
I feel like that's wrong.
Yeah, immigration experts say they've never seen the federal government make such sweeping changes to the ordinarily low-profile process of hosting international students. The National Immigration Project is challenging the visa cancellations, which have affected students in California, Colorado, Kentucky, Ohio, Michigan, Massachusetts, and Florida, among others. But we talked about the three that are the main ones.
I have friends studying abroad who are still at university. I know they're studying at a couple American campuses because they have a study abroad program for a semester. I wonder if they're going to get canceled.
And maybe, here we go. Some of the cancellations, this is where it gets silly. Some of the cancellations appear to be connected to things as minor as a roommate dispute or an off-campus traffic ticket, while others appear to be connected to pro-Palestinian protest participation. Okay, the pro-Palestinian protest participation, cool, I got it.
That makes sense.
That makes sense because you guys took it too far.
You can't do that.
You took it too far. All right. There's going to be consequences. But as far as like your roommate, like, I don't know, doesn't like the way your clothes smell. I mean, or whatever it might be. I mean, that's a little silly. Quote, I've been doing this for 25 years and I've never seen 300 students lose their visas, said Len Saunders, a Washington state immigration attorney based near the Canadian border. To hear that something like 300 visas were canceled out of the blue, it's all political, he says. To read that there's hundreds of people having their visas canceled, you know exactly what it is. Well, it was exactly political to open up the border and let everybody in. So, a political response to a political response. That's what it is. Sorry, Len. By the way, immigration attorney. Maybe that's something you should look into. You should go to the law, pick up an immigration attorney.
I feel like that's a headache.
I feel like you're going to never run out of work.
True.
Like you're always going to have clients.
I mean, people are always trying to immigrate.
Yeah.
From one country to another, never mind state to state at this point,
yeah.
And how the laws changed there, I guess. Listen, I mean, good business, great business, a lot of clients. Absolute mess and hectic life, probably. Because you probably imagine being a lawyer and you have one of these cases, you get a call in the middle of the night. I just got a notification that I'm supposed to leave the country now. And you're probably thinking, what the?
Okay. We got more Marco Rubio news with this one.
Oh, poor Marco. Can't catch a fucking break.
Oh, no, you're going to love this. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said last month that he'd revoked at least 300 visas of students he described as, quote, lunatics, citing pro-Palestinian support or activism, activities that are normally considered protected First Amendment rights. No, we already talked about that. That's not taking over buildings, spray painting, destroying, vandalism, threatening other people, that's not protected First Amendment rights. So shove that up your ass. Quote, it might be more than 300 at this point. This is Marco Rubio. Quote, it might be more than 300 at this point. We do it every day. Every time I find one of these lunatics, I take away their visas.
Man's having a good time with this.
The man is just...
You think he's starting to slowly lose a little bit?
I think he's
like the way that he's just... Normally he's more refined with his speech. He's like, I just do it for fun at this point. Do you think he's like, oh, God, this is not what I signed up for? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Here, Massachusetts Amherst Chancellor Javier Reyes said 5 international students lost their visas and urged other students to check their own status. They have the Angel Fund, which they set up in the first Trump administration. Reyes is from Mexico. He came here on a student visa himself. Called the American higher education system the envy of the world. Well, apparently it is, because you can break whatever law you want and just get away with it and not even go to class, I guess. So,
what law did he break?
Well, he didn't break any law. I'm talking about now it's the envy of the world because they see all these protests happening. And apparently, if you're a student, you don't want to really study. You just want to protest and,
Oh, okay.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
I want to know what these people did.
Yeah.
If they're all just ready to protest, fine, okay. You can't protest in favor of Palestine. Sorry. Not Palestine, but Hamas.
I love it how the liberal academics are saying this is a right-wing, people don't actually believe in free speech. I'm sorry. The idea of cancel culture came from liberalism, not Republicans and not right-wingers. So, sorry, don't try to put the whole we don't believe in free speech bullshit on us, okay? We tweeted the wrong things and we lost our job. We tweeted the wrong things and we lost our livelihoods or some of our friends, some of our ability just to even go out in public. So don't give me that bullshit, all right?
That's a ridiculous thing to say.
That's just ridiculous. All right, so here we go. Recent actions have contributed to uncertainty and impedes the ability of our institutions to best advise international students and scholars. A letter written to Rubio and other officials. and its important institutions are in a position to reassure international students so they can continue to make exceptional contributions to their campuses, communities, and the nation. Well, unfortunately, that's not what they've been doing for the last 3 or 4 years.
Nope.
So you reap what you sow, baby. You reap what you sow, and that's what's happening here. I'm sure your colleges and universities back where you came from are just as good. Just as good. So it is what it is. Yeah. So I still feel bad for the guy in the El Salvadorian prison, though.
Yeah, that guy, poor guy sitting there.
That poor bastard.
Do you think he's making friends?
I don't. I think he's shitting himself on a 5-minute basis.
Probably, but you gotta have somebody to talk to.
I don't think he's making any friends. I think there's friends involved. Okay. All right. Before we get into anything else, we got more Mexico news, which is kind of immigration related.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. So let's get to this. Yeah, here it is. Trump threatens tariffs and sanctions on Mexico for stealing water from Texas farmers.
I'm going to need a little bit of a...
Oh, boy, here we go.
A little more background on this. What do you mean stealing water? What water are they talking about?
Okay, so...
The Rio Grande?
Yeah, so if you didn't know, there's this giant river that separates the border between the United States and Mexico. It's called the Rio Grande.
It's in Texas, mostly, if not only.
Well, there's a treaty that was made, I believe, in the 40s. I'll get that correct, maybe here. Yeah, 1944 water treaty between Mexico and the United States that said basically Mexico owes Texas 1.3 million acre feet of water and was violating their obligation. Trump stated, "This is very unfair, and it is hurting South Texas farmers very badly. Last year, the only sugar mill in Texas closed because Mexico has been stealing the water from Texas farmers. Ted Cruz has been leading the fight to get South Texas the water it is owed, but Sleepy Joe refused to lift a finger to help the farmers. That ends now." Trump continues saying that he will make sure Mexico does not violate treaties with the U.S. and hurt farmers in Texas. Basically, Mexico is supposed to provide water. Mexico uses some of the water, but it's supposed to provide some water to South Texas as part of the treaty, right? Mm-hmm. Just last month, this is what Trump did. Oh, God. Oh,
uh-oh. What did he do now here?
He halted water shipments to Tijuana until Mexico complies with the 1944 water treaty. So if you live in Tijuana, you're going to be thirsty. Get your tequila now. He said, "My agriculture secretary, Brooke Rollins, if that's her real name, is standing up for Texas farmers and will keep escalating consequences, including tariffs and maybe even sanctions, until Mexico honors the treaty and gives Texas the water they are owed."
I don't know if you guys know this, but Mexico doesn't really have much water.
But Mexico's in a perpetual drought.
Yeah. So I don't know what water they're going to be asking for.
Literally, I don't even remember. When was the last time it rained where we are right now?
It hasn't rained in like 2 months.
Yeah, it hasn't rained in 2 months. It's dry.
Maybe
like,
more.
It is really dry. It's hot, but it's really dry. Like, I go outside. It's like, you ever see that SpongeBob movie where they take him out of the water and they put him in the sunlight there?
Yeah, it's exactly
And he starts going... That's how it feels being where I am sometimes. Like, that's why you constantly always see me drinking water while on a live stream.
Same.
If I didn't, I'd be dead. I'd shrivel up.
I'm almost out done with my 2 bottles.
I'd look like a raisin.
Gotta appreciate those things, from the first world.
Yeah.
Water. The availability of water.
So, the two countries have tussled over the treaty before, but the drought-driven water shortages were the most severe in nearly 30 years, this past few years, right? Under the treaty designed to allocate shared water resources, Mexico is required to send 1.75 million acre feet of water from the Rio Grande to the U.S. every 5 years. So Texas's $500 million citrus industry is heavily dependent on water from Mexico, especially with drought conditions growing more severe in the region. In fact, Texas is the 3rd largest citrus state behind California and Florida. Listen, I get it. Texas is in a drought. We lived in South Texas.
Southeast Texas.
Southeast Texas.
It was humid there.
It's humid, but you go a little further south, there's not a lot of water.
No.
Because it's hot. It's dry. I get it. In Mexico, it's hot. It's dry. It's like the same thing. We get it. There's not a lot of water going around. All right?
Yeah.
So, but the Bureau of Western Hemisphere Affairs said it's denying a request for Mexico to deliver water to Tijuana. Like, what does Tijuana have to do with this?
Poor Tijuana. Oh, they're on the border.
They're all the way over on the other side.
Yeah.
They're nowhere near Texas. Leave Tijuana out of it. They have their own problems.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
It's rough.
So
Water wars? Question mark?
Water war. We have trade wars, water wars, tariff wars, sanction wars. What are cartel wars, border wars?
Every kind of war.
Every kind of war. Really.
Foreign war.
It's just this is crazy. Said South Texas was facing a water crisis, which he called a man-made crisis. A little bit of climate change, I think. A little bit. I mean, it's gotten drier. You know, I'm not a big proponent of climate change, but I do believe that the climate does change on its own, and we have to kind of deal with that. I don't know how you're going to hold Mexico accountable.
They don't have water to begin with.
And we don't. Yeah, there's no water down here to begin with. Like literally, there are protests every day in and around Mexico, all over the country, because the government has to make decisions of what neighborhood is going to get water and what neighborhood. There is sometimes even in really nice neighborhoods that you and I have stayed in, that your mother would come and say, "Hey, don't turn on the water today. Why not? There is none. Okay, when are we going to get it? Probably 2 or 3 days. Like there's no the whole neighborhood. There's no water. Like the whole city, there's no water.
Right.
And
that's why they have the tanks to save water in case that happens, so you can take a shower, use the bathroom, all that proper stuff. But even then, it's like, all right.
So I'm not sure exactly. Trying to get water from Mexico is like trying to get blood from a stone or a turnip.
Not possible.
Not possible. No offense. I feel worse and worse for this lady every day. She's gonna she wakes up and just prays to God. Like, this man doesn't say anything or call or just even look in her direction. Because every time Trump looks in her direction, it's some other ridiculous thing that comes out of his mouth. And she's just like, son of a, what the? And what's she going to do?
Well, to be fair, she kind of started off a little bit hostile.
She did. She tried to get the upper hand. She got slapped down. She learned her lesson.
Not really. Listen. She kind of tried a little bit still to try to get that upper hand again.
She's still losing. She knows it. She's just trying to save face. But I mean, no offense, but every day, if you're a world leader, you're going to wake up and go, I wonder what Trump's going to say today, and please don't let it be about me.
Yeah.
Like, please let it be, like, if you're, like, the president of Chile, you're probably just looking up at Mexico going, ha-ha, it's not me you're laughing about. So, I don't know. Miss President Scheinbaum, good luck. But here's the thing. Here's what worries me. The more shit he does to Mexico, the more worried I get about my own status here.
Fair.
I'd be like, they just come and get me. They're like, you have to leave the country. Why? Trump. Okay. I guess
understandable. I guess.
I guess I gotta go,
Gotta go.
I gotta go live somewhere in the United States again. But yeah. Oh man. You stayed up late.
No, not too late actually. It was more the whole doing the work this morning and all that other stuff.
That's true. You did do a lot. All right.
I still have a lot more to do too on top of that. So,
Whew.
What's next?
Well, let's stick with the orange man bad, I guess. His
I see the headline. Boy, tariffs.
You and I talked about this the other day, and actually, you and I talked about this before they even made it a headline. So I feel like CNN copied us. Trump has 90 days to do 150 trade deals. Financial markets aren't buying it. I don't know. Financial markets seem to be buying it. Let's look at the stock.
It's up. It's up today.
Yeah.
It's up like 600, 700 points.
Yeah. They said the dollar went down.
Did it?
I'm not sure if the dollar went down.
I don't know if the dollar would have gone down with this market.
So it's close. Yeah, it went up. Hey.
Yep.
It's up over 40,000.
Told you.
So I think they're buying it. What about the Nikkei and all that? Let's see.
Probably jumped up.
What's the dollar at? Interesting. Okay. You know what? I should check?
What?
Let's see what it is against the euro.
That's a good option. That's a very good option. Versus euro. A little down, yeah.
A little down. Yeah.
But it's always been like that, about the same.
Just about 4 years. When you started living in Europe, it was about this.
Yeah.
And it went up to like 92, 95. Let's see. What about the peso?
Peso probably went down then.
That's around the same.
It went up actually.
No.
Dollar value. Interesting.
Oh, it went down. Actually, yeah, it went down about 30 cents.
Did it?
Yeah.
Oh, my bad. I thought it went up.
That's okay. Above that 20, that's the sweet spot right there.
Pretty much.
So I guess, I don't know, I guess I read this article and I'm like, what are you talking about? But my thing is, do you think he can make 150 trade deals in 90 days?
Listen, I'm sure some of those deals are smaller and easy to hammer out. 150 in the federal government? No, I don't think so. Maybe like 130 at most. I could see.
Well, this is what they say. President Donald Trump said, and his advisors said, this was the plan all along.
I don't think so.
I don't think it scared the bejesus out of the world by announcing astronomically high tariffs, get countries to come to the negotiating table, and, with the exception of China, back away from the most punishing trade barriers as America works out new trade agreements around the globe.
All right. Whatever they want to say.
Whatever they want to say. I don't know if that was the actual plan all along. Maybe it
was the intended consequence or effect that kind of box China out, as you said.
Yeah.
But I don't think they intended for it to be 150 trade deals in 90 days.
That's a lot. Like,
a lot of things you got to negotiate. No?
There's so much to
negotiate. Am I wrong?
Yeah. There's so much to negotiate. Oil's down, like we're in a recession.
Are we officially in a recession?
No. You need 2 quarters in a row of negative growth.
Oh. Okay, I thought you said recession. I was like, what?
Well, the prices of oil are acting as if they're in a recession, right? But we'll see. I don't know if he can do 150 trade deals.
Yeah.
Because after 90 days, don't the tariffs go back in effect?
Pretty much.
And then what happens? Everybody's just screwed at that point.
Unless maybe you're in the middle of a deal.
Maybe. I don't know.
Maybe. I don't know. It's a little complicated. This becomes... I mean, we touched on this yesterday, so I don't really know much more to add to this. Except for the fact that 150 deals in 90 days seems too much and almost not like it was part of your plan. But it is what it is. At least the market's going back up and it seems to have the effect you want.
Market's going back up. I guess that's just only a good thing we can say about that. But, excuse me. Told you I need that water.
Yeah.
All right, we talked about Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Hey, speaking of money.
Oh, God.
Speaking of money.
I see Doge, I see Musk, and I see money.
All right.
What did we find now?
Doge reveals over $380 million in fraudulent unemployment insurance claims. $380 million. Here we go. All right. So these numbers are a little weird. All right. We have almost 25,000 people who are over the age of 115 years old, who are collecting $59 million that we sent out.
I feel like that's a lot of old people.
I feel like
that don't exist.
I feel like those old people don't exist. It gets worse. In addition to that group, Doge also claims 28,000 people between ages 1 and 5 claim $254 million in unemployment benefits.
I feel like this is like chunks of money that we could be using for other things.
I feel like I missed out when I was between 1 and 5. I could have been making some cash.
Yeah, with me.
Yeah, with you, or just when I was 1 and 5. All right, wait. 9,700 with birthdays 15 years in the future are collecting $69 million.
Now that's impressive.
That's friggin' impressive.
How did you put that?
You ain't
past
even
the
born
IRS?
yet, and you're collecting money. That's awesome.
With what social security number?
Again, these are all fraudulent social security numbers that they found. Someone with a birthday in the year 2154 claimed $41,000.
What?
Yep. Someone in the year 2154. Apparently, Flash Gordon lives. Maybe it's Captain Kirk.
It could be Captain Kirk.
Captain Kirk needs his unemployment. He retired from being captain. He needed his $41,000. Under the Department of Labor, those are the things we're uncovering, said Raymer, the Labor Secretary, Lori Chavez de Raymer, said to President Trump. Yeah. Madeline Somerville, an attorney and political analyst, tells us these findings come after Doge claimed it removed millions of Social Security accounts belonging to people listed over 120 years old. That's a lot of old people.
Yeah, I feel like if we did have that amount of old people, I think we should be breaking some world records.
I feel like we'd see them. Like they'd be out and about.
No,
we'd notice these people.
120 years old, they're stuck at home, dude.
Yeah.
Wheelchair.
Look at Elon. He's just like, yeah, this shit is fucking
crazy.
He's just like, you have no idea. Though he does have that crazy look in his face right there.
You think he's happy?
That's a little crazy look. I don't know if he's happy. I think he's just, I don't know. He just seems like he enjoys doing what he's doing right now. And he seems like, I don't know, he enjoys being right, I guess, you know?
I mean, who wouldn't?
I guess who wouldn't, yeah. So now the big deal is that people are all upset, Doge and whatnot. You know, that, they want to tell you in the news, they keep saying all these protests and all this. You want to take a look at the approval ratings for the GOP?
Absolutely. Why not?
Okay. So this shocked CNN because they couldn't believe it. In 1994, who cares more for the needs of the people like you, Democrats or Republicans? Democrats held a 19-point lead in that poll in 1994. In 2005, they held a 23-point lead. In 2017, they held an 18-point lead. Now it's tied for the first. And these guys at CNN, they cannot believe it.
It's tied.
It's tied. 50-50. People believe like the Republican Party is watching out for me more than anyone, more than the Democratic Party.
I think because you think how far left has that party went? Look at that. The things they started to kind of stand up for, which is like doesn't really resonate with the average American. It's like, oh, you just stand out for whatever you can to get whatever vote you can. You don't care about me.
But I mean, think of the downfall in 30 years. For 30 years, 3 decades.
Yeah, it was.
For how many election cycles? The Democrats owned the idea of having the best connection with average, everyday, ordinary Americans. Now what do you have?
Tied.
You have tied. You have people like Bernie Sanders going out and saying, capitalism bad, but he owns 5 houses, right?
Yeah.
You get people like AOC going out there saying, fight the oligarchy. And I'm like, but the oligarchy is the people who you used to love. The Zuckerbergs and the Bezos and
exactly
all that stuff, right? Now
your
you
donors. Your
donors, right? You got people going out there like this person right up here. You don't know who this is. This is Representative Jasmine Crockett from Texas. Instead of saying something like, I don't like Greg Abbott's policies and giving an alternative, she makes fun of him being crippled and in a wheelchair.
I'm sorry, she did what?
Yeah, she calls them Hot Wheels.
Okay, kind of funny.
Funny, but still.
Funny, but so wrong.
But, I mean, if you don't know, Greg Abbott was crippled as a young man because a tree fell on him and crushed his spine.
Oh, okay.
So, but that's what your Democratic Party does. They come out, and now you're wondering, and these people are shocked. Oh, what do you mean? No, they used to love you. Democrats, they used to be beloved as the party of the people. You're not anymore. You threw it away. You threw it away on TikTok dances and Russian hoaxes and all that crap.
Well, not only that, but also the
transies.
You've gone so far left with policies that it just doesn't really resonate with the average American anymore.
Yeah.
And now you've moved so far that they don't see you fighting for them. Instead, they see you pandering to a side that they don't agree with, or maybe they don't fully align themselves with, or they just don't care much about, and they think, oh, you don't care about me, you just care about the vote I have so you can stay in power.
Yeah.
Which is, I'm sure, is how a lot of these people viewed the Republican Party as well for a while, but now they see it in both.
Here's another one. Among those with college degrees, it's the same score. It used to be plus 18 points for Democrats in 2017. College-educated people used to be overwhelmingly aligned with Democrats.
Yeah.
Then it was plus 18 points for Democrats, plus 18 points for Democrats now. But look among non-college voters, look here, it was plus 7 for Democrats in 2017. So they still have the college-educated, but now the non-college educated, right, was plus 7, still had a lead. And now Republicans have overwhelmingly gained plus 9 points.
So they made up the 7 and then added 9 on top of it. That's crazy.
It's unbelievable.
So 16 points they made up, essentially.
Yeah. The Democratic Party is just, it's lost its way. It has no idea. It doesn't know what it's going to do now.
No, God, no.
The more Trump keeps hammering away at stuff, and the more they attack him, it seems like the more they attack him, the more people are like, feel bad for Trump and want to be sympathetic towards what he's trying to do.
I think maybe you're right to that, but I think it's more the fact that, as I said, they see where the party's going and they see it doesn't represent them anymore. And
plus, I think they realized that they were lied to for 4 years.
Well, that as well.
They were lied to for 4 years. This guy's healthy. Biden, there's nothing wrong with him. And all of a sudden, no, there's something wrong with him.
We need to take him out.
You take him out, and then then even the media is coming back saying, "Yeah, we knew, and we didn't say nothing," and all that stuff. So, it's amazing. It really is amazing how far it's followed. So, all right, one other thing for tariffs, by the way, I forgot to actually pull this in. You want to get a Nintendo Switch?
Yeah, absolutely.
I do too, but apparently, if you're in U.S. and Canada, you can't. So,
what do you mean you can't?
The article originally pointed to the May 8th date as new information, but this has been the case since April 2nd. We apologize for the error, but anyways. Pre-orders for Nintendo Switch 2 were set to go live across the world on April 9th, but economic chaos caused the Trump tariffs forced Nintendo to issue a delay in the U.S. first and then Canada. Pre-orders went ahead as planned elsewhere, including in the U.K. The first batch of invitations, I didn't understand this, will start going out May 8th, 2025 for the My Nintendo store. I guess you have to
No, so I know how this works exactly. So
here it is.
There's a lot of people that are scalping the Nintendo products, especially Pokemon cards. And they don't want people to scalp the Switch 2s and then sell them online for higher.
Sure.
They want players who actually are going to play the Switch to be able to buy the game when it comes out, or not buy the game, buy the console. So they're requiring you, if you want to pre-order and get your invitation to pre-order, you have to have a Nintendo account that shares your gameplay data so that they know, okay, you actually do play, you're not just making this account for the sake of being able to pre-order this, right? And your account has to be at least show kind of playing data from at least 11 months or so.
Minimum 12.
Or minimum 12, whatever it was. Right? I thought it was 11. This is all done so that people who are pre-ordering the Switch 2 are not going to buy it and necessarily resell it online.
Okay.
Because they don't want people to be like, oh, I can't get a Switch 2. They bought it for $400. Now it's online on eBay for $800.
Well, here's the pricing. All right. In the U.S. alone, Nintendo Switch 2 by itself is $450.
Yeah.
If you want to get it with the Mario Kart World bundled in, $500.
That's not too bad.
But Mario Kart World by itself is $80, so I guess it's a little bit. Donkey Kong Bonanza, it's an extra $70. Nintendo Switch 2 Pro controller, so there's different controllers.
There are better versions well, not better versions of the controller, but I guess probably a better version of the controller.
$80 for a controller.
Oh.
Switch 2 camera, $50. Joy-Con 2 controller pair, $90. Charging grip, $35. Strap, $13 for a strap. For the wheel pair, $20. Dude, this is expensive shit.
So some of these add-ons are expensive. Well, the thing is, they're add-ons. You know what I mean? You don't necessarily need them. It's not like they're going to be like, you don't have controllers, buy controllers. You know what I mean? I'm not saying it's great, but still.
The country surrounding Nintendo's decision to charge for Switch 2 tutorial game Welcome Tour. Even a tutorial game it comes with, you're going to get charged for?
What?
Elsewhere, we've got the story on former Nintendo of America boss Reggie Fils-Aimé.
Oh, Reggie.
Who pointed to the story of Wii packing game Wii Sports in thinly veiled tweets addressing the controversy surrounding Nintendo's decision to charge for Switch 2 tutorial game Welcome Tour.
I've never heard of that, and I've never heard once about that. And I guess there's no more information on it. That's kind of weird. If they're charging for the tutorial, that's really, really weird.
It's really weird. Although, you have to buy the new Astrobot from Sony.
True.
I didn't buy it because,
Exactly.
I don't need it.
If it's like that, then that's fine. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like you want to buy it, you can buy it. You don't really need it, though.
Yeah.
But I'm curious about some of the games that are going to come out, the pricing on everything else. But I think that's all I've got to add.
Well, we'll see if we can get one. All right. RFKjr. If you eat donuts or smoke, should society pay for your health care? I don't think so.
No, to an extent. Yeah, no.
I think to an extent.
It depends on what we're talking about.
You get lung cancer because you've been smoking for your whole life. Smoking is bad for you.
Right.
So should society have to foot the bill?
No.
Okay.
But I mean, if you get lung cancer because of secondhand smoking from some family member.
Well, yeah, you just say that. Listen, I'm not a smoker. I got it from okay, well, then we take care of you.
Yeah.
But if you're
how do you prove that? You know what I mean?
Well, if you're consistently I think you could tell who's a smoker and not.
But you wouldn't be able to tell the lungs. You know what I mean?
There's other signs.
Maybe. I have some concerns about that.
All right. What about if you're consistently overweight and obese?
Pay for your gym membership. You got to show up.
Well, I mean, you get diabetes, you get cancers, you get all sorts of health problems. Obesity causes every other health problem there is. Heart disease. Should Americans be footing the bill?
No,
paying for it?
No, not to an extent. To an extent, no.
Like, should we tie in the incentive to be healthy to economics? Is that the way to get people to be healthy?
Sure, but certain healthy foods are expensive. I mean, have you been to the grocery store in the U.S. and seen the prices of groceries?
I'm just saying.
Vegetables and stuff, you know what I mean? Like, it's cheaper to get sometimes Coca-Cola than it is to get water.
I understand.
So I'm saying, my concern is that, okay, those who don't have the money to maybe afford the top of the line, never mind vegetables, but also like the actual stuff that you should be eating in terms of keeping your body healthy, because they don't have the money for it, but they have the money for something else, which is like frozen. Are we going to punish them? No, I don't think so. So there's a yes and no to this. Like, yes, based on the premise you provide me, absolutely, Americans should not be paying for those health. What do you call them? Health
choices?
Not health choices, but the problems.
Illnesses.
Yeah. Sorry, I can't remember the word. But if it's like, okay, you're poor and you need to eat, but you can't afford to get the proper amount of vegetables that you should be eating because prices are ridiculous, but that frozen TV dinner is just right. You know what I mean?
But again, why?
That's different. I think that's a different level. I mean, you've seen it. I've seen it.
I mean, yeah, grocery prices are high.
So,
I get that.
That's my point. Because also, imagine you have a whole family. Imagine a family.
But if you're
poor,
if you're poor and under a certain amount of money you make, you get food stamps to buy stuff. Are you buying soda with that, or are you buying water?
No, if your food stamps have, I think, requirements. No,
they didn't until I think they're going to start putting them in now.
Yeah,
but they weren't under the Biden administration. You could just buy whatever you want. You could buy stuff that wasn't even food.
Yeah, no. If you got food stamps, if you're getting food stamps, right, you should be able. You should only be using that for healthy food, or not necessarily healthy food, but like food in general, and only food. I don't know what else they'd be spending it on. What else are they spending food stamps on? Who's taking food stamps for other things other than food?
A lot of places.
Really?
Yep.
All right.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah, when I worked at Target, we used to, in Massachusetts, the food stamps or SNAP or whatever they called it, they go towards clothing, they go towards makeup, everything. Anything personal use. It was crazy.
All right.
Absolutely crazy. But I don't know. I think some of this needs to be looked at. I think there needs to be some accountability in healthcare. Sure. It can't just be like, I'm going to be as unhealthy as I want to be. Now pay for it. Like, if I never stopped smoking and I kept smoking to this day and I got sick, that's my fault, right? I should have to pay for that.
Yeah. No.
Or my family should have to pay for that, not somebody else's.
Well, you asking me to pay for it is a little different. No, I'm kidding.
I know.
I mean, yeah. No, obviously, for those things, yeah, I agree with you. And when you put it like that, absolutely, you're right. But I do have concerns about when it comes to like those who aren't necessarily able to have that balanced diet or afford it.
Yeah, I mean, and so.
If you can fix the food stamps to be able to cover some of the things that they need to eat, like nutritional stuff, right?
Yeah.
Then we can talk about implementing this. Because I don't want to leave people behind.
And it's just basically a way of shaming people, shaming them. It's like, that's what got people to quit smoking. It was shame, stigma. Oh, you smoke? Oh, it's dirty. Oh, it's disgusting, right? Drinking, they all have the same thing. Drinking's just as bad for you. It's a carcinogen, right? Just as bad. But drinking is celebrated. Smoking a cigarette? Oh, that's dirty. That's a nasty habit. I used to hear from everybody. Everybody.
I think it's because, well, hold on. We tried with the drinking once in the 1920s, and it didn't really go too well.
Well, that was making it illegal.
I know. But my point
we're not making anything illegal here. We're just saying, hey, you got a choice.
Right. No, absolutely. I agree with you. But I'm just saying, let's be careful. Let's not repeat our past mistakes, all right?
I'm just saying, we're not going to make anything illegal. We're not going to take anybody's choices away, but should society have to pay for your bad choices? I don't think it should have to. I think there should be some limitation to that. I love this. The Constitution doesn't say anything about health, much less donuts and cigarettes. People should bear the cost of their own unhealthy decisions, not just because it's wrong to force other people to bear those costs, but because then they're less likely to make unhealthy decisions. Okay. There's some truth to that. I think there's some truth to that.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
So, I mean, you look at where we live now, the country of Mexico, and you look at the United States, 2 most obese countries in the world.
Yeah.
It's because of what we make these decisions to eat the crap that we eat. So
Fair.
anyways.
What's next?
Well, you wanted to talk about Andrew Cuomo.
A little bit.
Yeah, what's going on with this dude?
So he's running for New York City mayor, boys. This guy, former governor of New York, right? If I'm not mistaken. We all know what happened with him. Those court cases really caught up. His past.
Isn't he one of the governors that put COVID patients in nursing homes?
I'm not sure if he did.
I'm pretty sure they did.
That's not what they're talking about, though. They're talking about the conduct of him as a person when it came to females.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, that's why he got fired.
Yeah, exactly. So
or why he quit.
Well, now he's
why we got Kathy Hochul.
Right. So now he's gonna run for New York City mayor. And some people are kind of divided on this. Some people are like, "Oh, he was a good governor. Maybe he'll be a good mayor." And other people are like, "Well, he did some fucked up things in office.
He's not going to win that.
He might win it. Right now, he's looking kind of favorable in the sense of like, okay, he's actually gaining some traction.
Really?
Yeah, from what I understand, but not like super significant yet.
Yeah. See here, this one person writes: Cuomo has repeatedly refused to take responsibility for mandating the transfer of COVID-positive patients from hospitals to nursing homes. The plan was intended to free up hospital beds needed to treat thousands of COVID patients pouring into acute care facilities. Yet, when the Javits Center was transformed into a U.S. Army 250-bed facility, the USNS Comfort was docked in New York and the Samaritan's Purse Field Hospital was set up in Central Park. Their services were underused. So yeah, I get it. There's the how I treated women, bad, good, okay. You got way too familiar with people, put your hands on places you shouldn't have put them.
Yep.
And there's this whole COVID thing still lingers.
To an extent, yeah. I think most people don't remember it as well, though. I think the news will remind them, I think, to be honest.
Who else is running?
I really don't know. That's the problem. He's like the only one people are talking about.
Well, he's the only one with name recognition, I guess. But let's see here.
Yeah.
Candidates for New York mayor. All right. Wow. We've updated our terms. Yeah, I went out of there.
Close those terms.
Okay. Andrew Cuomo.
Right.
Adrian Adams. Is that Mayor Adams' wife?
That might be Mayor Adams' wife.
Brad Lander. No clue.
Not good.
Zoran Mondani. Don't mess with the Zohan. Scott Stringer. Zelnor Myrie. No, it can't be because Adams is running. Jessica Ramos. Michael Blake. Whitney Tilson. Oh, Curtis Sliwa. The head of the Angels there. The Guardian Angels there.
Not a clue what you're talking about.
Oh, dude, it started out in the 70s. Crime was rampant. People couldn't protect from the subway. So you had these guys, young men with these red berets running around the subways, basically vigilantes, basically beating up criminals, protecting people. He was like the head of it.
Damn.
He's the only Republican running. Eric Adams and Jim Walden. Okay, I know Andrew Cuomo.
I know Eric Adams.
I know Eric Adams. I know Curtis. He's a little out there, but I know Curtis. I don't know anyone else. Let's see here.
No, I think, listen, I mean...
Oh, city comptrollers, city council speaker.
But they're not... Those other ones are just in there for the sake of trying to maybe do something.
State assemblyman.
They're not going to win.
State senator. Former federal prosecutor. Former state assemblyman. Okay, so they're just all Guardian Angels founder. Former hedge fund executive. Buddy, you ain't winning.
Yeah, you lost. Yeah, you lost the second you said that. Have you seen what they do to CEOs in that city? I mean, yeah. But as you can see, I mean, out of everyone, you haven't heard anything except for maybe something about Adams with like when he was called down to Washington, D.C. to testify, right?
Yeah.
You know what, Cuomo? Everyone else, you don't know nothing else about.
You know what? New York gets what they deserve. It's never going to be a conservative. Rudy Giuliani was the last of that conservatism that was ever going to be there. You're never going to get back to that. Never going to get back to that. I don't think so. Not in my lifetime, at least. So.
No.
All right.
Well, I think that's it. I think that's everything, no? You got anything else to add?
I got that. That was a lot.
That was a lot.
That was a lot. We did a lot. All right.
Yeah.
It's time to say goodbye. It's time to go play some video games and relax.
Yeah,
it's
I think
Friday night.
We're gonna put on some baseball.
We're gonna put some baseball on.
Later
Play
tonight.
some video games
Get
and
some-
relax. It's Friday.
Yeah.
See what the wife's gonna cook for dinner.
Pretty much.
What is the wife cooking for dinner?
Not a damn clue.
Not a damn clue. Me neither. But I'm sure it'll be
How
delicious.
would I know? I love you, honey.
All right. From with that, I'm still your Reluctant Gr1ngo. This is still my son, and we are south of the border. Salud, a huevo. Till next time.
Adios.
All right. Let's get to our closing.
Are you a racist? Do you hate Mexicans?
So long, gay boys!